Here now is Lisa Bell and Candace Campos with Florida Foodie. Sponsored by Light Orlando, delivering hope together.
Hello and welcome back to Florida Foodie. I'm Lisa Bell.
And I'm Candace Campos. And today's guest is the president of an organization that's working to help fight hunger in Central Florida. And God knows the need is there. Organization's handing out a record number of meals so far this year.
We are so happy to be joined today with Phil Flynn from Jewish Family Services of Greater Orlando. Thank you so much for joining us. We were just chatting. You are busier than ever right now.
That's correct.
Okay.
The amount of food going out of our establishment is record-breaking for us. We've been in existence 45 years.
Oh, wow.
And May broke all our records, then June broke May's records, and I've just closed the books on July, and July broke June's records. So we have a tremendous amount of food going out of the house.
So what exactly does Jewish Family Services do? What sort of aid do you provide in our community?
We're a community service organization providing food pantry, which is what we've just been discussing. We have mental health counseling. We have a ride program for the elderly and the disabled. We have a family stabilization program, so people who are just a paycheck away from being homeless or just need some help dealing with the issues around running a household in Central Florida can get some assistance and some guidance. And then we have our rabbinical services who provide spiritual guidance to those who are in hospitals or are homebound and can't get out.
And so when you're talking about, one month hit a record, following month hit another record,
yeah.
I mean, what numbers are
Sure.
what's the magnitude of this? I know you said you guys are always going to ask the numbers.
No,
but
that's
really,
great. No, that's
the
great.
numbers really tell the story.
Sure, I'll put it in two perspectives. The first is we did this year up until July, we did 166,000 meals went out the door. To put that in perspective, that was 7,500 clients. So pre-pandemic, go back to 2019, we were averaging 22 clients a day. We then, during pandemic, we rose to 124 per day. But this is 2023, and so pretty much everybody who's sort of kind of back to work is sort of kind of back to work, but the economy is not the best, payroll hasn't kept up, that's a whole other discussion, but we're averaging 100 people per day.
Wow.
So we are now at a new normal.
Yeah, so you wonder what is happening. You touched on the economy, and there are so many ways to look at the economy. Yeah. Food prices have come down quite a bit now. Yeah. We have, in some cases, record low unemployment, especially here in Florida. Right. Wages have gone up, but so have housing prices, insurance costs. So what is actually happening? Why is this need as great as it is?
I don't have that answer. I mean, I don't play the political world. I'm sure the politicians could absolutely have their opinions and economists can have these discussions, but I see the working poor. My facility, we do serve, if you're homeless and you show up, we feed you. We give you the food to go. But the vast majority of the clients, over 95% of people coming in, they're working.
Right.
So they're working 2-3 jobs, but they can't get to the end of the month. My assumption is they just don't have enough capital to pay the rent, to pay healthcare benefits, to pay all of these different things where from a piece of paper, it's, gee, we're stabilized, we're having a little bit better. But the reality of these individuals is, I don't have enough money to pay for food until the end of the month, so they come to us.
It's tough. And the numbers, I mean, I just had this conversation with my 6-year-old daughter yesterday. We were driving, we were stopped at a light, and we saw someone on the side of the road. And my daughter asked, is that person homeless? And I said, maybe. And she goes, well, she doesn't look homeless. And then I explained to her that there's a big, homeless looks like, whether it's homelessness or food insecurity, it all looks different. You can't just look at a person and say they're food insecure. I mean, but the number is 1 in 8 people here in the greater area.
And 1 in 5 of them are children.
Right.
They're children. I mean, we're talking about food here.
Mm-hmm.
They can't get through the 30-day month with enough food to make sure their education is as good as we're presenting it to them, because they can't keep their scores up. They can't, family dynamics begin to get stressful because I'm going without food so that my 2 kids can get their food. That's just, from my perspective, again, I'm on the front lines.
Right.
So I have a slightly different view, and I just don't understand how in a country like ours, which is the world's breadbasket, I have people lining up to get food.
So how do you as an organization then make ends meet and meet that growing demand?
Sure, I think that's a great question. We rely on a combination of a tremendous amount of donor support We are a nonprofit agency. We're raising money all the time, and through government programs and government grants. And so we're the groups that say, okay, I understand it's this much paperwork, but we're just going to do it and be able to get the food out to the individuals.
So have the donations kept up with demand?
Not quite.
Not quite.
But they have enough for us to just do today's job and worry about tomorrow. You know?
And you are on track to, what is it? Hand out by the end of the year 250,000.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's a tremendous amount of food.
How do you process all of that? Do you rely on a lot of volunteers? Do you have a huge warehouse? Take us through how you actually distribute all that food.
That's a great question. I wish I could give you a better word than food pantry, because when I talk to most people in my life and I say food pantry, they have this vision of, it's the Sunday afternoon after church, come by and get some food and walk out the door. Or they think of a Meals on Wheels program where someone's delivering home food. I wish I could have a different word for you. Food bank is Second Harvest. They have warehouse and it's pallets upon pallets. We're sort of in between. So we purchase all of our food that we do purchase, we purchase it from Second Harvest. Because your dollar donation, I can buy $9 worth of food based on the way their program works. So we stack up pallets of food in our building. It all gets sorted, it's all barcoded, it all gets sorted out. And then we create what's called a set. And this is two grocery bags, paper bags, that's enough food, non-perishable items that you take with you that can feed a family of 2 for 4 days. So if you're an individual, well, hopefully I have 8 days worth of food, the math. And if you show up and you have a family of 5, then we just give you that many sets to make sure you can at least get through a week's worth of food. Yes, because we do take government grants, we do ask some questions. Do you live in Seminole County? Do you live in Orange County? Do you live in the city of Orlando? Yes, I do. This is my address. I just don't need your address. I just need to know where you live. Okay. And so we take that information so we can report back to the government because they're interested in tracking, and I think that's important for them. For us, it's the whole philosophy of Tikkun Olam. You show up at my front door, you're hungry, I feed you. Mm-hmm. You need help, I help you. Our job is to save the world.
And so where is your front door? And what about transportation barriers? Because that's also
that's a huge thing. We're lucky. We are at 2100 Lee Road. So the bus stops literally right in front of our building. It stopped there. And it is not unusual to see clients going out the door with their food in the bags, getting onto a bus line. But thankfully, most of the individuals who show up in private transportation, their cars, or a friend carpools and a couple of them will come together. Mm-hmm. And then we'll help them get the food into their car, into the trunk, and get them on the road.
And you've expanded quite a bit recently. So what does it look like now?
We went from about 600 square feet of pantry space we doubled. We literally went to 12 or 1,300 square feet of space. We put in what's called carton flow racks. If you're in the industry, you know what that means. So everything gets loaded up, and then as you pull an item, another item slides down, because we have to be much more efficient in order to stay effective. Because we're managing 3-4 people every 15 minutes showing up. So it's fastest to get the sets and get them.
Almost conveyor belts like.
Yeah.
Like
that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
And do you rely on volunteers to fill those grocery bags?
No. We rely on professional staff.
Okay.
Only because, as much as I love volunteers, and we love volunteers, it's a little bit too much to get it. We're servicing so many people, and there's so many moving parts that I need to have consistency.
Right.
Consistency creates efficiency, which creates effectiveness. Volunteers come and help us during the holidays. We greatly appreciate that because then you get an even bigger demand. But the Monday through Thursday from 8 to 5, no, that's paid staff. Getting those sets created, making sure the information is taken down, and no one's getting hurt.
And Phil, I mean, you said before we started recording this, is you're one of the only organizations or one of the only companies who are striving to get yourselves out of business.
I would love to come in here and be talking about this, the close of JFS, because food insecurity doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
We're a nonprofit, and we come in today every single day. What can we do today to make it so that we don't have to be here tomorrow?
Still ahead on Florida Foodie, the surprising silver lining from the pandemic that helped Phil Flynn keep his pantries stocked with fresh produce and meat. More from the Jewish Family Services of Greater Orlando right after the break. For 45 years, Jewish Family Services of Greater Orlando has been handing food to families in need.
You show up at the front door, you're hungry. We feed you. It's plain and simple.
Now the need is greater than ever before, forcing his organization to grow, providing access to mental health services and coordinating with bigger nonprofits around the state. Let's get back with Phil Flynn.
What's it like to actually work up close with a lot of these people who are in this situation and have that need?
It's humbling, you know. You see an individual. She's coming to us. She's got 2 kids, and we're providing 3 or 4 sets of food. So she's walking out the door with 5 or 6 bags of food. But it's just because of conversation. She's looking at her watch because she's got to get it to her 2nd or 3rd job, and the pain. We've all worked very hard, and we know the pain of what that try to means, and yet you're working 2 or 3 jobs, and you're still coming to see me on the 18th of the month because there just isn't enough cash flow or capital to be able to put food on the table for your kids. How is that possible? So we work with them, we talk with them, we try to just tell me what you need, and we'll make it work.
And it's interesting to hear about your partnership with Second Harvest Food Bank, because I feel like a lot of people, us included, don't realize how closely all the different organizations work together. I mean, they are kind of like a huge umbrella organization.
They are. They're the food bank. We do it collaboratively, and that's not only true just for the food pantry, but I can't have all the services that everybody will need. So somebody comes in, we find out they have a concern, or they have an issue that I can't address. Before they walk out the door, I'm on the phone calling my other nonprofit colleagues. Listen, I got a gentleman here, I have a woman here, she's looking, can you help? Can we sit? Yeah, okay, they're gonna see you now. So if you can make yourself over there, if we can help get you over there, they're willing to see you at the front door now.
I mean, that's just an amazing network.
Absolutely, it's the only way we cooperate.
I mean, what would you say to somebody who's watching and says, I don't really qualify, I don't want to take food from somebody else who might need it more than me. What would you tell them?
Just come. Because if you're hungry, I mean, that's again, we're talking about food. If your belly is rumbling because you're hungry, everything else is inconsequential. You're not worried about, can I pay the rent? You're not worried about, do I have enough medicine? You're hungry. Let me get hunger fed, and then I'll deal with everything else. It's the second step. Just show up. We'll feed you. We've never, ever, ever turned someone away, not giving them food. It's a pretty simple process. It's a bigger problem, but at the end of the day, it's a pretty simple problem.
It's also amazing the buying power that you touched on that you all have when you work together like this. But another thing that is so sad in our country, and you talked about, we are the breadbasket of the world, we also waste so much food. So how are all of your organizations working together to try and stop some of the food waste?
We're the only country in the world that I understand that buys its food based on what it looks like versus what it tastes like. A tomato that isn't quite perfect, or a strawberry that doesn't look exact, still tastes the same if you eat it. And if you go to Europe or other countries, you go to South America, you eat the food that's on your plate. But in America, it's gotta be aesthetic, and it's gotta be pleasing.
There's some truth in that.
I mean, but that is. I mean, I shop and I watch people. They'll pick it up, but they're not really squeezing it to see is it ripe. They're looking at it.
Yeah.
It's a tomato.
And I'm guilty of that.
We're all guilty of it. It's how we're brought up, and it's how we're programmed.
You mentioned that some of the other services you provide are mental health counseling services. How important is that when you're also dealing with people who are suffering from food insecurity to have that additional counseling?
Well, it's all part and parcel of being human. If you're dealing with financial issues, or you're dealing with I'm 1/2 paycheck away from losing my apartment because my rent's is going up. It creates a pressure, it becomes a stress. So the food is the first step we talked about, to calm you down, get you fed. And then we have our mental health, and we're one of, I think, 3 organizations in Central Florida. We take insurance. So even if you're working full time and you have a stress relation with you, and you're using our food bank, and we take your insurance cards, so we can get you through the door and get you into a mental health counselor every appointment, once a week or every 2 weeks, whatever you and the counselor can work out, to just help you kind of get over that hump and get you going there. But at the end of the day, any stress on the human psyche that's related to things that you and I probably take for granted. I mean, I go grocery shopping and I may complain about the bill, but at the end of the day, my shopping cart has what I want in it. I'm not being structured like our clients are, or the people that we serve, our community members. We're just giving them what they get. So here I get to choose, and so that just creates a pressure on you.
And obviously non-perishable food items are so important, but so is having fresh produce and access to that. So are you able to provide that? And if so, how do you manage that?
Sure.
That's a tricky one.
Yeah.
It goes directly related to the pandemic. When the pandemic came down, all of the restaurant supply houses, all of the food purveyors, they were stuck. They had all these vegetables and no place to go because the restaurants weren't open. So we said, we'll take them. As did all of the other agencies that could grab them. So we grabbed them, and we purchased new refrigerators. And I went from 2 to 5, huge commercial refrigerators, and we stack them in there. Today, we still keep the same relationships going. So when we can get vegetables, and we have a pretty good success rate of every purchase date. We purchase food every 2.5 weeks. Trucks come in and deliver for us, or we go with our van to pick up. We get enough vegetables to get us through that period of time. So nobody's going out the door with just a bag full of peanut butter and crackers. There's fresh produce in there. And we get meat pretty regularly because, again, it's too close to the expiration date. It's not expired, but it's too close to the expiration date, and somebody won't buy it okay, we'll give it to you and donate to you, and we get it out the door, and it goes that day.
If people do want to volunteer, you mentioned you have full-time staff members who...
But we always have programs going on that people can volunteer.
What are some of the volunteer opportunities and how can people get involved?
Sure, they can always work with us with the pantry operation. There's always somebody who can't get to us. We get phone calls, I can't get to you. Well, I can't send my van out there to go get 2 little bags of food because the van's doing other pickups. So sometimes volunteers will come and work with us. They'll take the food, they'll go deliver it to the household.
Nice.
So that's a big help.
Kind of like your own Meals on Wheels.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Meals on Wheels does an outstanding job, and we work a great deal of partnership with them. But occasionally, you're not on the list, and
When your car breaks down, or
it's
somebody
just
else
something
has the
ridiculous.
car.
Right. So we'll get the food to you. Nobody goes hungry. If we're aware of it, nobody will go hungry. And so, and then we just started a brand new program, which we haven't talked about at all, which is fine. It's our Holocaust Survivors Assistance Program.
Wow.
There's about 20 to 22 individuals living in the Central Florida area that are survivors of the Holocaust.
Here in Central
Here
Florida.
in Central Florida. And this is a brand new program. We just launched it in February.
Okay.
And so this program, their biggest thing with volunteers is isolationism. Because they're in their 90s. They're 92, 96 years old. And so volunteers get a chance to go and visit with them, just talk with them, just keep the mental stability going on and to be able to engage. That's a big
I have to imagine that has to be one of the most rewarding things for those volunteers to be able to do that.
We're looking forward to making that work.
Yeah.
absolutely. We hired a case manager, and she's well versed in the issues, and she's working with these clientele, and so it's I mean, you can just read it off my face. It's like, holy mackerel. Okay, let's just work on this.
Right?
There's so many layers to JFS.
We are a
awesome.
social services organization. We're a community service organization. So we look at each person coming in, and most people come to us, they start with the pantry. That's just the way they get introduced to us. And then, but we ask questions.
It's the gateway.
It's a gateway, right? We're the gateway. And so, how are you doing with your rent? How's things happening with your family stabilization? Oh, I got a job interview coming up, and I'm a little nervous about it. We'll put you in touch with Sasha. You can talk about some skills you may have.
Interview techniques.
Techniques,
Yeah,
right? Exactly.
right.
So we'll talk about that, and we'll get a phone call. I got to get to the grocery store. My car is dead. And I'm okay. Let's get you to the grocery store. So we cook you into the RIDE program, and so that just becomes
Taking care of the whole person,
Absolutely.
rather than just one part.
Right. Exactly.
The whole family, the whole community. You started out saying, the goal is for you to basically have no clients,
Right.
but that would be terrible considering all the work that you are doing.
But think about it. If food insecurity went away, then I wouldn't need the food pantry.
Yeah.
Just take it away. We'll do something else.
Focus on
Yes.
something else.
But
Right?
Yes.
absolutely, we have no
Yes.
problem as a profession saying we're not needed anymore. How marvelous!
Right. Well, you are greatly needed in our community.
We appreciate it too.
Yes, so interesting to learn about all the things that you guys are doing. And we hope to follow up and meet some of your clients
Yeah.
maybe in the future. That would
That'd
be
be great.
fantastic.
Come by anytime.
Yeah. All right. Phil Flynn from Jewish Family Services of Greater Orlando, we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching Florida Foodie, and check out our other episodes right now on News 6 Plus. It's an app for your smart TV, Roku, or Amazon Fire Stick, where you can stream any of our podcasts and watch live TV newscasts. Join us for another episode of Florida Foodie next week.